Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, Pulling Pits and Opinions with their host, Gunny G, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts and on most social media platforms. Let us know how we're doing. Any criticism is good criticism. We got a special guest by the name of Todd. Met him on the net. He's going to introduce himself here shortly. Todd, say hello to the listeners. Hey, well, thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to share in your experiences and your adversity and your resilience and just your overall life in terms of service in the military. Um, Go ahead and give a background, professional bio, so to speak, where you're from, born, married, kids, duty stations, how long you served, all the good meat and potatoes of that.
All right. Well, I was born in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm adopted by a family in Iowa. So I was raised in Iowa, high school and all that stuff there. I was a little bit of a late bloomer from joining the military. I joined when I was 21. Met my wife just before I went to basic training. Not married yet, but that took a couple of years after that. Of course, went to Lackland. Then I went to Chanute Air Force Base for technical training as a what they called back then a metals processing specialist, which was basically aircraft welder.
Nice.
And so my first duty station was George Air Force Base in California, in Victorville, which is now the Southern California Logistics Center, which we visited last year, and that was heartbreaking to see what it looked like, on the housing side of things anyway. So a couple of years after I got there, I married my wife, Lori. We've been married for 36 years now.
Congratulations.
My first son was born when I was deployed to Desert Storm with the 35th Tactical Fighter Wing Provisional. Wild Weasels. Motto, you got to be shitting me. They went after SAM sites, Scud sites, everything. They'd let them light them up, and then they would take out the radar and all that kind of good stuff. So she was pregnant when I left. Left on our second anniversary, August 22nd in 1990. So did all that, came home, and I had about a month and a half baby boy, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
A little bit of an adjustment for me. After that, George closed down, and well, we left in 92, and George ended up, I think they finally closed down in 94. We went to an AVSOC unit, 352nd SOG in RAF Alconbury in England. I spent a couple of years there, and they closed that base down. So from there, we went to Incirlik, Turkey, spent 3 years there, and back to the States. We went to Little Rock Air Force Base after that. Then I got out of Little Rock, went to Eglin Air Force Base in Florida.
Todd, can you hear me? Okay, okay. Okay, perfect. I was making sure.
Yeah.
Good.
And after Little Rock, like I said, after Little Rock, we went to Eglin, worked F-15s there, and deployed to Tabuk, Saudi Arabia for um, Iraqi freedom. We weren't there very long because there was no air-to-air threat, and that's pretty much all we did. We were on F-15Cs with the 58th Fighter Squadron, and so I think about 7 weeks, 8 weeks, we came back home,
Nice.
and I was there until 2004, and then I got command leveled to Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota, and that's where I
Yeah.
retired.
North
Yeah,
Dakota, huh?
yeah, B-52s, and that's
Okay.
that's I retired about 2 years into that.
Okay. Well, sounds like there's a lot there. You saw a lot of cool
Yeah,
places, huh?
yeah, I was deployed. Well, I won't say deployed. I was TDY to Qatar at Al
Okay.
Udeid for 4 or 5 months. Got to go on a trip to Kenya for a C-130 recovery. We were down there for I think 3 days, which was kind of cool. Just to see, a bit of Africa anyway.
Oh yeah, I keep hear good stories nothing about Djibouti.
And I now have a daughter.
Congratulations.
She's a squid in San Diego,
Okay. Oh,
and
legitimate squid.
yeah, she just made E5
Oh,
after
congratulations.
like
Okay.
4 years. I think she made E5. So her and her husband, and then she's expecting. We found out Christmas Day that we're going to be a grandparents,
Oh boy, that's always
and
fun. Keeps you young.
yeah, well, I don't know about that, but I mean, have you
Uh,
seen that series Landman?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it though.
Okay, well, he basically tells his daughter to lie to him when it comes to that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I told my daughter. I said, just lie. You were
She'll just show up at the house during Christmas. Hey, Grandpa. That's what that
no,
is.
she FaceTimed us for that with a little little ultrasound thing.
Nice.
Our son lives in Munich, Germany. He's currently in Australia.
Oh, Murph D. Wait, that's
He's
Marine Forces.
he's a professional baseball player.
How interesting. Fascinating.
Yeah, he made it to the show twice with the Yankees, but never got in a game.
Okay.
And he was with the Phillies, the White Sox, the Yankees, and the Padres.
Wow, I feel special. Todd allowed me into his professional, famous dad life. That's awesome.
I'm not sure it's famous or anything, but then he had a rough. That kid has got more drive and heart than anybody I've ever known.
Credit to the parents. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, it was. We had a lot of fun when he was growing up,
I bet. I
and then
bet.
a lot of fun when my daughter was growing up too. They're 7 years apart,
Oh,
so
okay. Big brother, big sister?
they hated each other for a long time. There was just that age difference was tough.
I bet. I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son, and it's every day is different. It's either they love each other so much that they're the best of friends, or they get on each other's nerves, and it's just kind of all hell breaks loose. So
Yeah, now they're pretty good friends, but
that's good.
before it was pretty tough, breaking up a lot of fights.
North Dakota, huh? How many years of service did you?
I did 21.
21. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for
21
your
years
service.
and I think it was 7 days, something like that.
And what was the catalyst for you to get out?
I didn't like the politics. I had made E7, and I didn't like it, and I thought it was just a good time for me to pack it in. I was 42 years old at that point, and I was thinking, okay, if I want to get a decent job, I can't stick around too much longer. It's going to be a you're an old guy, and all that kind of crap. And so I had put a resume out on this website, Minnesota Works, because we didn't want to stay in North Dakota. We didn't want to go back home, and Minnesota was pretty close, about 3 hours from home for both of us. And so I ended up going down there. My wife and my son wanted to finish high school and Minot. So they stayed up there about another 2 years. I retired in 2007 and they finally came down in 2009. So we kind of had to manage two households to a point, and it got tough. I mean, it was like, money was stretched. I had gotten a job at an overhaul facility. So at that time, we had merged career fields just before I left George. And so now I was a welder and a machinist. So I had gotten a job there. And then 2 years later, that place closed down. They were wrapping $100 bill out of every part they sent out. And I got picked up by a fire suppression company, and that's who I work for now.
Okay. And are you close to your second retirement or what?
Um, I'll be 60 in about 6 months. Uh, not real close. I think I got probably go to 67.
Really?
That way,
Can you do that?
that's when you can actually pull full Social Security is at 67.
Oh, I
At
thought
least
they.
at least for me.
Oh, okay. Okay. 21 years, the politics, obviously. Was there's like culmination of things or just one thing and I was like, that's it. That's not it.
Well, I had to end up going into all these and writing packages for boards. Airman of the Month, NCO of the Month, NCO of the Year, and all this kind of crap. And it was disgusting what we did. We were just making shit up. I mean, literally.
Wait,
On the
just to,
aircraft maintenance side of things, it seemed like, always The ones that won all the awards were like the admin folks, logistics folks,
Oh
and
boy.
stuff like that. So there was a lot of pressure from the commander to, push our folks through.
Hmm.
And so we got really colorful with language. And, if it was a routine thing, it was now an outstanding thing. And I didn't like it, because I was running, I ran the
Uh,
machine shop for a while there.
well,
And
you're
then I
the
went,
wing though, right? You were at the wing the entire time, so it's just kind of like
I was at
quote.
squadron
Okay.
level.
Okay. Okay.
And so I had left the machine shop. I went to be a pro super for a while, which basically I was the liaison between the flight line and the back shops.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with like aircraft and stuff like that, but you've
Well,
got
I'm
your
familiar with Marine side of the house. It's just kind of the way familiar. Not, I'm not saying I'm in there, but in terms of the wing, you have the guys on the planes, rotary fixed, and you have the maintenance shop, which is the MWSs usually, and then you have the liaison between those two, which is the maintenance chief, right?
right.
And it sounds like you're the maintenance chief. What it sounds like, right? The middleman.
Not really a chief. I mean, we had a chief. We were just like we would talk to the expediters,
Okay.
the guys that were running things on the flight line,
Okay. Okay.
and we would support whatever they needed us to do.
Hmm.
I was actually stationed with 2,000 Marines during Desert Storm.
Oh wow.
I believe they were out of Cherry Point. Mac 11 is what they were.
Okay.
So we had EACs and F-18s,
Wow. And how did that
along
go with
with.
liaison with them?
It was pretty good, not bad at all. I got to know a couple of their back shop guys, like the non-destructive inspection guys and some sheet metal guys. They were pretty cool, honestly.
Nice. I'm glad that was a good experience because
Yeah, it
sometimes
wasn't bad.
it's either high and to the right or high and to the left usually.
Yeah,
That's good though. I'm glad. And how was Desert Storm for you? How was that experience?
life changing.
Interesting.
We had a few incidents. We had a Scud attack, which Daharan missed, and we had a Patriot battery right behind the shop that I worked in at the time, and we heard the Patriots go, and then all of a sudden we just heard boom, 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 boom. So no alarms, no nothing. We didn't know what was going on. The guy that I worked with, we worked mid shift or night shift because it was all 12-hour shifts anyway, and he was sound asleep. Kicked him, woke him up, and I'm like, dude, get your fucking shit on, let's go. We had no idea. The alarms finally went off about 4 to 5 minutes later.
Oh, wow.
And so we're like, are they, they crashing the freaking gate? What are we doing here? We were in Bahrain, so we were like, chances of somebody crashing the gate there are pretty limited because there's only one way to get there, and that's across the causeway. And then we had I don't know if you're familiar with the Marine Hawk missile units back then. Well, they decided to
In
launch
Desert
one.
Storm? No.
Yeah, they launched one over the flight line when planes were returning and had to detonate it. So we were asleep when that happened, and it was
Oh,
just like a big explosion. And it's like, now what the fuck is going on now?
yeah,
You
right,
know.
right.
But no, it was a good experience. I mean, we had a great wing commander that I'm still in contact with today, a former Vietnam F-4 pilot, and so yeah, it was probably. I guess this is going to sound weird, maybe not coming from an Air Force guy, but I was more at home there than I was back here
Interesting.
because we were actually doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That you found it was purposeful. I mean, everything's purposeful. We do everything for a reason, but it just you saw the fruits of your labor quickly, or a lot more quicker than when you were in Desert Storm than it was out here. Out here is just training ops. And you don't know what you're doing it for, and then you realize, okay, wait, I've been doing this a long time. When am I going to actually really, really, really do it?
Yeah, I mean the
It's
Desert Shield part was rough, because we're not allowed to go into Iraqi airspace, so they're flying up to the border, and the pilots were trying to get them fired up, so they'd get on like an all channel radio call, and tell them to come out and play and kind of shit like that. And then the night of the
hell yeah.
17th, we were still up in the hangar. So we were actually in a hangar where all the Marines were at because they actually had a small welding and machine shop there. And it was on the 17th one night, or that night. All of a sudden, a whole bunch of pilots came out of the briefing room and started putting their patches in a box. And it's like, okay, it's showtime.
Mm,
It's go time. So then after it started, we got pulled down because the Marines had the flight line, and we had revetments on the south side of the base, or south end of the base. So we got called. We had to go down there where we didn't really have any equipment to work with, and yeah, it's just here we go.
here you go. Todd, did your light go out or what?
What's that?
Did your lights go out?
No, it's just getting dark. That's all.
Okay, okay.
My computer's kind of my light. But there, is that better?
Oh, that's right. That's good. That's good. I want to see your beautiful face.
Yeah, my old face.
Well, look, I gotta ask. I mean, you did Desert Shield, and you enjoyed that time. You found purpose, or at least your fruits. You could see, you could soak in the fruits of your labor. Like it was what we did had real mission, effects or effects to the mission, which is awesome. Um, 21 years and some change. Obviously, the politics, right? You said politics, and it was, you didn't like it. It wasn't something you would signed up for. You'd rather be on the deck plates with the airmen, hooking and jabbing, right? North Dakota retirement, Minnesota. You moved to Minnesota, right? And I'm gonna ask you, how was the transition for you when you got out at 21? At the time that you get out, when did you retire again?
2007.
So 2007. I wasn't even in yet. I think I
Yeah,
got out in 2010 is when I enlisted. So
yeah.
2007.
86 to 2007.
Oh wow, 86. I wasn't even born yet, Todd. Would you look great? You look great.
60.
Oh man, congratulations! And you're gonna be a grandpa. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You can't be mad at that. You can't be mad at that. It's a blessing
No,
for sure.
absolutely not.
Let me ask, in 2007, it was right before the 2008 crash, market crash, right?
The what? I'm sorry.
The housing market.
Yeah, yeah.
How was that at 2007, 2008 for you?
Uh, we had sold our house in about 2006,
Okay,
so it really wasn't that bad. I
really?
mean, no, not for us anyway,
Okay,
because we had bought a house at Eglin, and Hurricane Ivan came through, tore everything on the coast to shreds, and we actually made about $100,000 on our house there, and
very well.
we were in it for 2.5, 3 years.
Wow.
And then we bought one sight unseen in Minot before we left. And thank God we had a great realtor, because the house was exactly what we wanted. And we made money on that one, not as much. And then my wife and the kids, they moved into a rental. And, I was kind of bouncing around in Minneapolis trying to find the cheapest place to live I could, just to, try to save some money and stuff. So I think we had 7 different addresses in Minnesota.
That's what happens when you geobatch, right?
Yeah.
You got to figure out where to live at. Sometimes it's in your car. I remember in San Diego, when I was in San Diego from 17 to 20, I sent my wife and kids back home, and it was just a duty hut. I feel like, you're on duty. You're basically on call 24/7. So I'm just kind of sitting there. Sometimes sleep in the car, sometimes sleep in the barracks in the duty hut. It's miserable trying to find a place to live. And luckily, they had like a geo-bachelor type quarters, but it wasn't more than just like a restroom size, toilet sized room with a bed
Yeah.
in it so you can sleep. But that sucks. 2007 transition, was it rough for you? From service to unit to civilian. Did that how did that go?
It's still not going well.
Oh, that was hold on, what 18? Holy mackerel, Todd.
It's about 17 and a half years
And why do you
right
say it's
now.
it's still rough now?
There's no discipline. There's no loyalty. There's none of that.
Do you think the military coddles you a little bit? Is that why that's rough for you?
They don't do a good job transitioning you out. They'll tell you, here's job services, here's this, here's that, but you're not prepared. I wasn't anyway, to deal with a bunch of shitheads.
Wow. I have heard
And
that the last recent sessions that I do with service members, it's the you lose the brotherhood. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like it's
oh,
gone.
absolutely, it's absolutely gone. And I still keep in contact with a lot of guys that I served with. We may talk once a year, but it's like we talked yesterday. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and they all pretty much had the same response. It's like, this sucks.
It's crazy.
Nobody's got your back. Everybody wants to put a knife in your back.
Why is that, do you think? Why is it so different from wearing the uniform to civilian? Why is it goes from group effort to individual effort? Why is it that?
It's everybody for themselves. We were, and I'm sure you can confirm this. I mean, we had each other's back. I mean, there were some that would, you know, I'd call them climbers that would step all over. Be careful, the toes you step on today might be the ass you got to kiss tomorrow. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it's just different. It's everybody for themselves. Like, give you a good example. Today, I run a plant down here now, where I live now, and we make the stuff that makes our fire suppression system work. So it's an explosive, but it's really more of a flammable solid kind of thing. And anyway, and so I had to give out raises today. Everybody seemed pretty happy, but one person, and it's like, you got a 6% raise, and you're gonna bitch just
Yeah.
after, right before Thanksgiving, they got, I think, $5,000 bonus,
Wow.
and it's like, and it's just, I guess, to coin my grandmother, the peas are always cold, no matter what. It's never enough. You
Wow.
know, and it's just,
In Spanish, it's called, which is basically translate to, I give you bread and now you want milk with it.
yeah,
Be grateful for what I give you, basically, right? That's crazy. Wow. Interesting.
well,
It's like
that's
when you're in uniform, you don't have that problem because we're all making pennies out of the dollar, right?
right.
We're all making the same amount. So what is it there to complain about? The only thing to complain about is being in the suck, being cold, miserable, and wet, probably.
Yeah.
As long as we're getting paid, it doesn't really matter. We're cold, miserable, and wet.
Well, and we
That's
knew what we
crazy.
were getting paid, and if you want to get paid more, get promoted.
And the paycheck hit, and more money, more responsibility, also more problems,
That's true.
as you mentioned, was one of the catalysts, right? Something you didn't agree with, kind of politicking was at E7. What's E7 in the Air Force? Air Force? It's like Tech Sergeant,
Master
Sergeant,
Sergeant.
Master Sergeant. Okay, Tech Sergeant is the E5, I believe, right? Okay,
Tech
okay.
Sergeant, yeah,
E6. Oh my God, I'm way off. Never mind. I'm going down. Well, look, Todd, I'll tell you what. 2007. Obviously, you didn't feel the effects of the market crash, but for the housing market, in 2008, your transition seemed pretty smooth. You seemed pretty well. But you said, what are you dealing with it primarily? You talk about individualism. You're right. Everybody wants to stab you in the back. Vice, in the uniform, you got purpose. You're all mission oriented, task oriented. It's the
right.
same. It's the same dead horse that's dead, and we're beating it all over again until it remains dead. What's one thing you could provide to the veterans now that are that are going to transition now? Hey, just so you know, this is probably something you should know. Getting ready for transition.
You can't do what you used to do. The way I dealt in the service, you can give people extra duty. You can punish people for certain things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can't do that out here. You know, so, and that's probably been the hardest. I mean, I can't talk to them like I would talk to airman shithead. You
My
know,
goodness.
you can't light
Smoke a
them up.
telly. Yeah.
You can't put them on 12-hour shifts, and you
It's
have
hard to
to
hold
do
people accountable, huh?
you got to like write them up 3 times, and the third time you fire them.
Oh my goodness.
Shit like that.
You should probably come work at a no fault state like Washington, Michigan, where I don't need to give you reason, man. If you're just a dirtbag, you're a dirtbag. You gotta go.
Well, Minnesota was a right to work state,
Oh, really?
and where I'm at now is a right to work state.
Right to work. That's what it is. I'm sorry.
And our problem is we work on a National Guard base that used to be an Army ammunition base. So it's really hard to get people to come out there to work.
That's they're just letting them run amok then, Todd. It's like a double-edged sword, huh?
It kind of is, but I've got a lot of good people right now. I've got one that is a real shithead, and she's 70 years old, and I'm begging her to retire.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's pretty good reason enough. It's hey, just FYI, you can't do what you used to. So
Yeah,
drop it, data dump it, do whatever you got to do to dump it out. That's
yeah,
crazy.
pretty much
What's one thing you miss?
everything.
Oh wow.
I miss it all. I mean, it's not the politics, but being out on the flight line, the jets going, and turn and burn, wheels up, go. I miss the deployments. I mean, I never got, technically shot at,
Right, right.
but the Scud attack, that was that kind of freaked us out a little bit. But
Of
it
course.
hit about a kilometer north of the base where they got it.
That happened a lot in when I was in Afghanistan. I was working at a Bagram, and I would go out to what do you call Shank, or what's that one? It was I forget the other one. So long ago. I'd go back and forth a couple weeks at a time, going back and forth, right? You get a lot of indirect fire, which I'm assuming the Scud attacks would probably be the same equivalent to. So the first night I was there, flat Kevlar rifle, pistol, whatever, and I was deployed with Task Force 310, Army Air Force, right? And the first time we're there, hey, they only went over the in case of emergency once in my pre-deployment workup, which was in North Carolina at JSOC. And like, hey, just so you know, once we get attacked, you have to muster you get accountability first, and then you go out to your positions or whatever. And so we went we went under this kind of like tunnel, like concrete half tunnel for sewers, almost,
Hmm.
right? It's like cut in half. They put it in the middle of the barracks or the middle of the wherever you're living at, and that's where you go. So the first thing you hear is, oh, it's like almost like fireworks going off, and I go, oh, it's like 2 in the morning. Like, what the frick? And so then me and the boys would gather up and right, get your weapons or whatever, and we'd muster up. And I only seen like two dudes there. I go, hey, where are we supposed to be at? He goes, just relax, give it a couple minutes. And we're sitting there, kind of just twirling our thumbs. I was like, are we supposed to go anywhere? Because I'm locked, cocked, ready to rock. Like, where are we going? And they're like, just stand by. And then the all clear would go off. You could hear the all clear. And like, okay, you're ready to go. You can go back to bed now. I go, what the frick? What was that? That's indirect fire. They're pussies, and they don't like attacking. They don't like attacking us full force, full front. I go, does this
At
happen a lot? I
Desert
goes,
Storm,
go ahead, go ahead.
like you're saying, Desert Storm, after the war kicked off, and we were running to the shelters every night. Every
That's what
time,
it was.
every time they launched a Scud, we went into Mop 4 every freaking time.
It was funny
And
because after a little bit, you'd be like, okay. After I think it was like the first 2 weeks, I go, this is point. This is stupid. I go, do we do anything? Are we accountable for anything? No. He goes, we just get accountability reported up, and then whenever they need us, they'll call us. I was like, okay. I think it was like the 11th or 12th day, and I go, I'm not getting up anymore. This is stupid. I haven't been called now. I'm just gonna sleep. So every time it would happen, the alarm would go off. I just put my flag and Kevlar, my Kevlar, and my weapon to my side. I'm like, okay, when they call me, no big
actually,
deal.
they wouldn't even. We didn't have Kevlar. We didn't have weapons. You know, so we went to the bunkers. Every time the alarms went off, but it got to the point where nobody was putting their mop gear on anymore. They're like, screw this.
That's funny.
If we get hit, we get hit, and we're not going to know it anyway. So screw it. We're done.
What's it? You said you miss it all. I'm sure every service member that gets out, they miss some part of the uniform. I would probably bet my whole year's paycheck that every single one of them misses something. Dudes struggle transitioning though, going from uniform to civilian, and the biggest thing is camaraderie, purpose, mission oriented, task oriented. Hey, there's always something to do. If there's not, somebody will tell me something to do, and we always got to get something done.
Right.
And just like you said, it's individually based. Everybody's out for their own. Once you get out, when we transition that way, we struggle up here, and we don't have the tools. Even though we should be brilliant in the basics. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you can tell them? Hey, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, here's a tool for your tool bag. This is what you need. This helped me. I'm not saying it's going to help you, but you should try it. Go ahead.
Be a good human, I guess. My guys can be frustrating, but on the other hand, you have to understand what they're going through. I mean, I live in Louisiana now, and most of my workers are minorities, and some of those guys had a lot rougher than I did growing up. So now they're making some decent money for the area that we live in. I just try to take that into account and try to, not necessarily put myself in their shoes, but understand that I probably had it better growing up than they did. I mean, my dad was a high school principal, so that kind of sucked for me, but it was good for him. Getting picked on and all that kind of crap, the bullying and stuff like that. But try to do that and just try to, you know, talk to them in a way that they can understand that you're trying to help, not trying to hurt them. That's, I guess, my biggest thing is I've always been kind of people oriented anyway. I don't want to fire anybody. If you like doing that, you probably should find a different job.
Yeah. Right.
So we just try to correct behavior. We can't do it the way we used to do it. So we have to find more creative ways to do it. I've suspended a kid for a week, and, a week without a paycheck, that hurts. But he's been Johnny on the spot ever since. And that was a couple years ago.
I think they're always looking for accountability, huh?
Well, they need to own it. Yeah. And that's one thing that they struggle with. I mean, I think a lot of civilians struggle with is taking responsibility for your actions. I mean, shit. If I screw up an airplane and it crashes, that's on me.
Yeah. 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 Facts.
So yeah, I guess that'd be it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Todd,
Try to
Todd,
try
go
to
ahead. Go ahead.
relate to your people.
Empathy. It's the new leadership principle. You didn't know.
Yeah,
Empathy
and
for the
I mean,
Marines.
I'll admit I lack empathy. I really do for the most part. But I got to also balance what's best for the company that I work for.
Absolutely.
So there's that.
Yeah, yeah. Let me finish off with this, Todd. Well, first, thank you for your service, and thank you for
Thank you.
your the honorable service, right? And taking the
Yeah.
time to share your story, right? Share your story because it's not always comfortable. It's not normal to speak into a phone when it's recorded and everything you say. It's almost like everything could be held against you, so to speak. But it's not. I promise. Yeah, pretty much, right? But it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of mental fortitude. Being emotionally vulnerable. You got a save round here a couple, maybe 1 or 2 minutes before
Yeah.
this ends. Uh, you got one last save round. Spit out whatever you what's on the dome piece. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, service members, service members, past or present. This is the last tool for a toolbox. For hell and for a well, can't try to speak. Where can they reach you? Type of thing.
I didn't hear the last part.
What's the last tidbit? So we talked about mental health. We talked about the challenges you
Oh
faced,
yeah. Okay.
and we talked about your experience, your transition. You provide them a tool for a tool, but be a good human, right? Thus far, how was we talk about now suicide kind of transition to suicide. I know there's some talks about normalization. It's preached a lot. It's this and that and the other. Before they take the 30-inch step in the wrong direction, let's bring it back full
Oh,
circle and say, hey, what's one thing that we shouldn't do that. This is what we should do. This is what you should do. This is how we prevent this. Go ahead. In your words.
find a good woman for one. I mean, my wife is my rock. She really is. I've got, some hobbies. I've got a Harley Davidson. I like to just go out and, that's how I kind of relieve stress, things like that. And my wife and I really got into shooting, which amazed me because she had never shot a gun until 4 years ago. And we have a membership at a shooting range. We go pretty much every weekend. And, don't I guess I mean I can't speak to those that, were in combat, honestly, because I don't know. I never went through that. So I guess there's people that love you and want to see you around. And I think honestly, I think suicide is pretty selfish. You hurt a lot of people when it happens. So find something that makes you happy and do it.
That's
If you're
good.
able to. If you're not able to do what you really want to do, then you need to find something that you can do.
Yeah, that's deep. It's coming from the other side of the spectrum, right? The flip side of the coin was you're in it, you're in the suck, you did this, you did that, you deployed, you seen this, you seen that, and that's why you're dealing with it. But nobody ever talks about the other side of the coin where, hey, it does, it's not right, man. You leave me hanging and now I'm suffering for the rest of my life because of the decision you made.
Yeah,
That's deep.
your
It's
parents,
it's deep.
your spouse, your kids. I mean, that's a horrible thing to me, and I understand why some people decide to go that way. They can't deal with the demons, and I know the VA is not real good at dealing with that. I mean, I don't know.
Everything's fixable sounds like what you're trying to say. There's nothing that's not broken that can be fixed.
Right. Exactly.
I appreciate
You
that,
know?
Todd. In a nutshell, I agree with you. Nothing is not fixable. Divorce is not fixable. Marriage is not fixable. Relationship is not fixable. Everything can be fixed within time and space, and obviously love in the situation. So I do appreciate that, Todd. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your experience, your wisdom, your insight. I hope retirement looks good on you at 67 as it does at 60 years
I'm
old.
not 67, I'm 59. Damn it.
59, excuse me. At 59, I hope retirement looks good at 67, like the way you
Yeah.
look now, 59. Keep on trucking, man. Service members help service members past and present. If you ever need anything, you got me, Todd. You got a friend in me. You got a phone call, whatever you need, let me know. I know you're a lot more wiser and older than I am. You've probably experienced more, on fire more. But
I
we
don't know
can all
about
learn
that.
something from
You're
somebody.
a Marine. I'm just chair force, right?
Hey, we're brothers and sisters in arms no matter
That
what.
is a fact. Yes, we are.
I appreciate it, Todd. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pit Talk Pulling Pits and Opinions with your host, Gunny G and Todd Bollinger, where service members help service member period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts and on all social media platforms. Let us know how we're doing. Any criticism, good criticism. And me and Todd, we out. Todd, thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Roger that.
All right.
All right, buddy.
Stand by, contact, ceasefire. Stand by, contact, ceasefire.
Pit Talk is a podcast featuring active service members who discuss their thoughts and opinions on various issues surrounding military life, current events, and history. The statements heard here are the opinions of its members and guests. These do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense and are not endorsed or sponsored in any way. Listener, viewer discretion advised.